Hello friends and welcome to the endless game of catch-up that is Figure Study, where I'm taking a look at, finally, Mastermind Creations Mnemo and Motif. I think I'm pronouncing that right. This is their version of IDW, Chromedome, and Rewind, and I've actually had these figures for probably almost a year now, or maybe it just feels like a year, I don't know. I've had them for a while. I've been meaning to take a look at them, but other stuff came up. But we're doing it now. So here we've got Mnemo and Motif, Chromedome and Rewind, and they are a very weird looking car and this. I think this is supposed to be like a data stick or something like that. It's not really a cassette. His fists are kind of in the spot where it could be like cassette reel stuff, but yeah, that's that's not a cassette. From what I understand, this is pretty accurate to the comics, I think, but it makes no difference to me. I mean, the transformation on these guys is enjoyable. It does the Mastermind Creations thing where it's very straightforward, but not basic, and it does a lot without kind of going out of its way to be overly complex. And I always appreciate that about Mastermind Creations, and I think it's cool with these guys. I just think their alt modes are not great, which I think is more an owing to the source material than Mastermind Creations themselves, because they work with what they got. I mean, I don't think what's here is bad, it's just not particularly interesting. You know, it's a stick and a flayed robot, basically. Though I guess, I mean, this does look like some kind of weird futuristic concept car type thing you might see somewhere, because I actually, my college that I graduated from back in, I don't feel like saying when because it was so long ago now, but the college that I went to, College for Creative Studies in Detroit, Michigan, it was a big automotive design school, and as an automotive design school, I feel like this is not all that far off from the kind of concepts that might have gone through some of those classes. This is a weird looking car though. But before going into detail on Chromedome's car mode or Motif's car mode, whatever, Mnemo's car mode. That one's Mnemo, this one's Motif. Before going into Mnemo's car mode, we're going to look at Motif's alt mode, just to get it out of the way. And this is very clearly a folded up robot. I do think the engineering here is pretty clever, but it is very clearly a folded up robot. Like, this is obviously legs, this is obviously arms, this is obviously his shoulders and torso and waist section. I did apply repro labels to both of these guys, so he's got that on the back. It took me forever to figure out where the repro label is supposed to go on this guy, because I was looking up all these reference photos and all of them are from the front. I'm just like, where does it go? And finally I saw a shot from the back and it's like, there. And yeah, there's really nothing about this alt mode that I can talk about that we won't be talking about in robot mode, because all of this is part of the robot mode. So I guess we'll talk about more of the details when we get to robot mode, but it's a box, possibly memory stick. I do like, though, this metallic red that they've got going in these lines on this matte black. That's a nice color contrast and just a nice detail in general. And then also the gold pec sections that have that metallic-y red outline around the outside. That looks nice. And around the back, same deal. You've got the metallic-y red, but then you've got these nice gold circles that they also use for screw holes. And yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about this. And you can't really do much with this. Just bring in Mnemo here. Like, you can set it down there if you want, or possibly back here, so it slides around a lot. It's a little more stable here. But there's really not much you can do with this in regards to Mnemo's vehicle mode. So let's just launch into Mnemo's vehicle mode. And the vehicle mode, you might notice, is a little bit different looking than what would be stock. And that's because I did actually do some customizing on Mnemo. I've been meaning to do it for a bit. Then I saw someone posted a custom of Mnemo up for sale on eBay, and that gave me an idea. They used black for panel lining, and I was thinking, like, I don't necessarily want it to be that heavy on the contrast, so I ended up going in and using gray for panel lining. So it does make the panels, it makes the lining stand out a little bit more, but it doesn't necessarily like overpower stuff, I don't think. Incidentally, doing lines on all of these sections on the wheel was a huge pain, but I did it. So if you notice some of the detailing sticking out a little bit more, It's because I went in and panel lined all that stuff with gray. I also did a little bit of paint work on the face, but we'll see that more when we get into robot mode. But yeah, the vehicle mode is a futuristic car that looks kind of weird. It's got like these 5 thrusters in the back, these giant wheels, and these tiny wheels in front. And I don't have any problems with this car mode in terms of like, you know, it's a futuristic Cybertronian vehicle. I think that's fine. But like looking at it from here, it's like someone took that classic Transformers H-Tank design that looks like a robot doing a squat and decided, how can we make it even weirder looking? It's fine. This is not a disguise. The Cybertronian modes are, as I think many people have said, they're really more for just getting around faster. They're not intended to hide most of the time, really. The colors are pretty decent. I do wish that the beige colors were a little bit darker. The contrast between the lighter color and the darker colors here is just a little bit too much in my mind. I feel like this would have looked better if it was just a little bit darker, but I have warmed up to it since getting the figure, and also I think just adding the panel lining to kind of bring that gray in all over the place I think helps. I do like the metallic blue that they used for the cockpit section. Also, you can barely see it, but I have a red Autobot logo on the front there. And from what I understand from the reference photos, that is accurate to the comic, where he just had a red Autobot logo on this red part of his robot mode. It doesn't stand out super well, but that's where it goes. I don't really know what else to say about this. It's an interesting car mode that's not my favorite alt mode, but for what it is, I think it's fine. And there are some really interesting transformation tricks that they did for this. Despite how it looks, there's a bit more going on here. But anyway, that I think is going to do it for the alt mode stuff. So let's get these fellows set up and bring in some size comparisons. Here is everybody with the standard deluxe squad, which is a little bit hard to see. Let me get Spinister out of here. I feel like, and Samus too. I think we've got the picture on that. So yeah, here is everybody with downshift, and you can see Motif is smaller than downshift, but downshift is a card, Motif is a stick. Mnemo is definitely bigger, but is also kind of thin and spread out. It's an odd comparison to make, but that's how it goes. And because we're doing another Mastermind Creations figure this time for comparison, going to once again show this guy the proper respect. So here we've got Mnemo and Motif with Mastermind Creations Spartan. Spartan is definitely chunkier than either one of these guys. Alright, with all of that out of the way, let's start with Motif and turn Rewind into a robot. And so here we have Mnemo and Motif in their respective robot modes. And this, from what I understand, looks very much like IDW Chromedome and Rewind. As I said, considering how obvious the splayed out robot is for Mnemo's vehicle mode, there's a lot of transformation stuff happening there to reshape certain things and get things positioned in certain places. It's kind of impressive, but at the same time, it's kind of like more work than you expect almost. Not necessarily a bad way. I do think their robot modes, though, look pretty darn cool. It definitely took some getting used to with seeing Chromedome like this, because he's very skinny, but I think it works. I still have that gripe, though, with the light beige. I feel like if it was just a little bit darker, it's just way too heavy contrast between this and the darker brown tones, but it doesn't ruin the figure or anything like that. And really, just these guys, especially Mnemo, like they do some really clever transformation stuff. Motif, I think, for how small and overall simple he is, he does a lot of neat stuff too. I also like how they kind of close up the legs and you've got these panels that just get out of the way and fill in these gaps behind the legs, but like they don't get in the way of the knee bend and they just fill in those gaps really nicely. It's cool. And I like how these shoulder pads kind of slide in a bit so it closes up that gap, but then you pull them out very slightly and that gives you the range that you need for actual robot mode. Mnemo's transformation, there's a couple of things that I actually think are really cool about this. Like I really, really like how the wheels for the front are actually the wheels. Like these are just straight up the wheels, but what happens is this bit pegs into a slot that keeps the wheel from being able to move, and it lines up perfectly with this heel piece that can be folded out. And so you get some really stable feet made up of wheels and wheel covers. And that's really cool to me. And I do think it's also nice how, gripe as I may about how skinny the robot modes might be, in particular Mnemo's, they don't really have kibble. Like, I guess technically they do. Well, not really Motif. Motif is kind of perfect in that regard, I think. But Mnemo's kibble is like the shoulder wheels and this thing on the back. And from what I've seen in the comics, the shoulder wheels are actually accurate. So the thing on the back may be the only piece of kibble. I don't know. That may also be there. I'm not sure. But I just really like how clever the engineering is on both of these guys, in particular, and on Mnemo. Getting back to the colors, the rest of Mnemo's colors I think work just fine. The darker brown and the red, totally fine. The yellow, fine. It's just this lightish beige is a little too light for my taste. Motif is, I don't know how else to put it, Motif is just kind of perfect. This very nice matte white just looks great, and then you've got some really nice silver highlights in just a few areas like the feet, the knees, the hips, a little bit of dark gray just there and there for the shoulders and hips. And then this nice matte black for the basically the entire upper body, the pelvis section, the shoulders, and all that detailing that we saw in the tape deck / memory stick mode. And he's also cleaner than Mnemo. I mean, that kind of stands to reason because he's less complex and his alt mode is just a shape. Mnemo, I will say, as much as I like Mnemo, I'm kind of put off by all of the hinge nonsense that's happening in the midsection here. Like that's a lot of hinges and pins, whereas Motif is so clean all the way around. Like pretty much if you look at him from the back, the only thing you really have are the backs of his elbows that stand out. They're a good pair though. I do think they're pretty neat together. Dare I say they're cute together. As for head stuff, here is Mnemo's head, and that is an IDW Chromedome head. I did the gray panel lining, as you can clearly see, but I also ended up going in and painting the faceplate. This was another thing that I took from that custom that I saw on eBay, because it looked really good. They just went in and painted the faceplate orange. This is what it looked like originally, and I don't think it's bad, but I just think the orange faceplate works better. And I kind of wish that they had done this color to begin with, but whatever. I liked it before, but I definitely like it with the orange faceplate now. with nice shiny metallic gold eyes, and the panel lighting helps to bring all that detail out, and I just think it looks really cool. I don't know much about IDW Rewind, but I feel like that is IDW Rewind's head. And again, he's got a pretty spot-on head sculpt, some nice detailing. There's the silver bits around the sides that are painted, which looks cool, and also this tiny little camera eye thing that they dotted with paint too, which is really impressive. That nice dark red faceplate and the metallic blue eyes. Looks like Rewind from what I can remember. And it looks good. It looks really good. They both look really good. In terms of articulation, well, this time let's start with Motif for articulation. So as we saw when looking at the head is on a ball joint, so you get some really nice waggle and some pretty decent up and down. It is also on a hinge at the base, so you can look way down. You can't look way up, but I think that's enough. I think that's enough to look into the eyes of his love. And of course you get the turn left and right, that kind of thing. The shoulders, there's actually a bit of a butterfly motion, and the shoulder pads can kind of get in the way of that, but if you bring them up, then everything's cool, then you can kind of bring them down a bit to work around that. The arms can also rotate all the way around. They can go out that far. You get a bicep swivel. You get a single jointed elbow that bends all the way up due to the transformation. You do get this gap on the underside, but I think it's an okay trade-off considering it's a single joint. And the fists are on a ball joint, so you can wiggle things around and rotate. The waist can rotate, but you also get an ab crunch, because of course you do. This is Mastermind Creations is basically like Make Toys, that they put an ab crunch on everything. Hips can go forward that far and back that far and out past 90 slightly. You get a thigh swivel. You get a single jointed knee. Technically it's double joint because there's this bit that can disconnect, but that's actually supposed to tab in place. So you want to bend up here, but you get a single jointed knee that bends past 90, so that's pretty cool. Oh, okay, so what's happening is it stops here, and then this can come undone and get you a little bit more. So yeah, that's a pretty decent knee bend for how this guy transforms. And then for the feet, you actually do get a pretty absurd ankle tilt. And you can also move the toe up and down, and it's kind of cool. There's this groove cut into the shin for the foot to go through. So yeah, Motif's articulation is pretty darn great, especially for such a little guy. I don't know, I like him. But this is a 2-pack, so for the other part of it, we've got Mnemo, and Nemo's head is also on a ball joint, so you get some really nice tilts and up and down and spin. The arms can go out that far. They can also go all the way around. There is a bicep swivel. The elbow bends well past 90. And considering the fact that this guy's elbows have no use in the transformation whatsoever, that's a pretty impressive elbow bend. And the fists are also on ball joints like with Motif, and so they can wiggle around and rotate. And the fingers are pinned, so you can also open the fingers. And as with a lot of these kinds of hands, you've got the 3 fingers on one pin and the index finger on another pin, so you can kind of open the hand and do like a beckoning gesture or whatever. I don't think the hands look particularly good open though, so I tend to just keep them in fists. You also get a waist swivel, as you did with Motif, and you also get an ab crunch, as you did with Motif, but Nemo's ab crunch is kind of ridiculous. The legs can go forward almost all the way and back. You'd think these bits would get in the way, but they really don't that much. Like, you can still bring the legs out ever so slightly past 90, and then you get a thigh swivel and a knee bend that does go past 90, and then you get rotation just above the ankle. You also get forward and backward motion on the ankle, and then you get ankle tilt. Both Mnemo and Motif have pretty darn great articulation. Let's get these fellows put back here and bring everything in a little bit closer so that we can do our last round of size comparisons. All right. Here they are with the standard deluxe squad, and it's probably no surprise that Emo is towering over everybody and Motif is shorter than everybody. And for a fellow Mastermind Creations size comparison, let's scoop everyone over a little bit more. You can see how they stack up next to Spartan. And yeah, that's going to do it for Mastermind Creations, Mnemo and Motif. This is a fun set. I was a little on the fence when I first got it because it's such a kind of nothing alt mode for Motif, and Mnemo's vehicle mode is just kind of odd to me. But the engineering is sound and the articulation is fantastic. Also, I might be a little partial to Mnemo now because of the custom work that he did on him with the panel lining and the painting of the faceplate and all that. But yeah, this is a fun 2-pack. But that is going to do it for Mastermind Creations, Mnemo, and Motif. What do you all think of these fellows? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. If you like this or any of the other videos that I've done and want to support the channel, there is a Patreon option. There is a link in the description for that, as well as a link in the end card if you want to check it out. There is just a single tier for $1. That $1 supports the channel and also gets you early access to videos, as well as the occasional behind-the-scenes photos and videos and stuff that I might put out. But with that out of the way, thank you everybody for watching, and remember, art is more than meets the eye.